The abridged code of Jewish law, chapter 129, number 7. And we're starting to discuss the actual prayers for Rosh Hashanah and the changes and additions and various things. So chapter 129, number 7. And if Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, we'll summarize this one because it's not this year. This year Rosh Hashanah, I believe, is Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday. But if it would fall out on Shabbos, then when it comes to the extra, the Kabbalah Shabbos, there's different customs. Some people say the entire thing. Some people start at Mizmor LeDavid. That's the Hasidic custom, and I believe Sephardic custom as well. And some people start even later, after L'Chadoy, the Mizmor Shili Yom Shabbos. And this is the main Ashkenaz custom. So each place goes according to its custom. So when Rosh Hashanah does fall out on Shabbos, wherever you go, hopefully they'll announce the pages, or you'll have instructions in your matzah. There's not this year. So let's go to Ches number 8. After we finish the evening service on the first night, we have a custom that we greet each other in the following way. We say L'shana Tova T'kosev v'sei Chosem. Right? So you should translate it as, for a good year, you should be written and sealed. So we'll give each other's blessing. Now, the Nekeva Omrim, if you're wishing a female, then there's in Hebrew there's different grammar for male and female words. So you say the Shana Tova, the Kosevi, v'sei Chosemi, right? And I challenge everyone to say the Kosevi, v'sei Chosemi 10 times as fast as you can. See how that one works out. But that's how we greet a female. So that's the nighttime greeting. But during the daytime, at the daytime services, Ein Omrim, we don't do that. Why? Generally speaking, the writing, so to speak, being scribed into the book of life, God willing, happens before midday. And usually the Rosh Hashanah services go beyond midday. Abulal Shani, and on the second night, so there are some people, there's different customs. Some people do give each other the blessing on the second night, because some people get judged on the second day. Now, it's not really so much necessarily the Chabad custom to give on the second night, but it can't hurt. Giving someone another blessing can never hurt. Never hurt. Just speaking about being judged on the first day or the second day, you may not have noticed it before, but if you pay attention to it, you'll notice it. There's going to be some time over the 2 days Rosh Hashanah that you're going to feel a little bit, I don't know if nervous is the right word, just a little bit anxious for a few minutes. And that is the time.
Apprehensive?
Apprehensive. That's the time that you're being judged. So when you feel that, really make sure you go all out for the right things. But sometimes some people get judged on the second day. And again, being judged, we said, is a privilege. No one asks about your accomplishments if they don't care about you. No one cares what you've achieved. They don't care about you. So the fact that Hashem is asking us, we've been in existence another year on this world, humanity. What have you done? What a privilege that Hashem cares so much. Test number 9. The Sudas Halayla, the nighttime evening. Nahagin lasoi simonim l'shana tova. We do things that make simonim, literally like signs, for a good year. So what do? He's going to give examples. Toivlim prusas hamoitzi bidvash. We dunk our piece of challah in honey. Right? And after we've eaten the piece of the challah, we say, should be His will, Hashem's will, that our year should be renewed on us, good and sweet. And then afterwards, we dunk an apple, sweet apple, in honey. We make the bracha on the apple and we eat it. And we also say, the same one. Again, in Chabad, generally, they're particular to say on the apple. But whether you say in all the other ones, it's up to you. Right? And we have a custom to eat the head of an animal. Right? That sounds exciting, right? But some people the easiest is to get a head of a fish, and you pull off some of the some of the meat from it. Haven't been able to do it in America, but in Australia we used to get a lamb's head. It's always exciting thing to have on your table. People walk in, what's that? Gets their attention. But the head of something, and we say Yiratzon Shnei L'Rosh, right? We ask Hashem we should be the head and not the tail. Yesh L'Hada Acha Rosh Keves, and many people try and have a sheep, right? The lamb's head. Shegam came Zachol El Yitzchok Zeiches or El Yitzchok, because then not only are we having the head, but that we should be the head and not the tail, but it also reminds of the ram of Isaac, right? So it's not the ram that we're getting excited about. It was the binding of Isaac that Avram and was able to pass that test, and so was Yitzchok. So it's a big thing. It gives a good merit for us. And people also eat certain vegetables that the name in their country shows something positive. So, for example, in our countries, meaning he's speaking about Ashkenazim, because he wrote this in Hungary. He says, Gezer, we have carrot, which is meren. In Yiddish is meren, which sounds very similar to the Yiddish for more. It's not only meaning carrot. But I may say, right, that we should be Hashem's will that our merits should increase. It's for other countries that would have these black-eyed beans, which in Arabic or rubia, which has the same meaning, and they will say the same hirotzo. V'yesh nahagim gamkein lahad lechol dagim, and there are many people who try and eat fish. Why fish? Sheyesh remes difrois lirbois kamay hadagim. This alludes to that we should be fruitful and multiply. We should have a lot of children like fish do. Fish have a lot of kids. And we don't cook them in vinegar. Because we don't eat anything that's like vinegary, like sharp like that, or bitter on Rosh Hashanah. And then, of course, we eat good, juicy meat and all kinds of sweet things. We also don't eat the walnuts, different types of nuts. Because the word egois for nut has the same numerical value as the word chait, which means, we'll say sin for like a better translation, but for doing the wrong thing. And also they make a lot of like phlegm and mucus in your mouth, which interferes with the long davening. We should try and learn Torah at the table. It's a nice thing if you have, there's 4 meals of Rosh Hashanah, 2 night meals, 2 day meals, and there's 4 chapters in the Mishnah of Rosh Hashanah. So a lot of machzorim have it printed in there, and it's a nice thing maybe if you're able to read 1 chapter per meal, and there's a lot of machzorim translated into English, or you can get or download the Mishnah in English, so you can do that. When the Hagim Kasas Lil Moed Mishnais Mesechus Rosh Hashanah, and as you said, there's a custom to particularly learn the Mishnah of Rosh Hashanah. And there's other foods also. You know, a lot of people have pomegranates because there's lots of seeds which have many merits, and in different communities, whatever it is. And although it doesn't say here, it does say in the large Shulchan Aruch that whatever means something positive in your language, in your time and place, you should have that. Which is why sort of in America recent last 10 years or so, there's become people have raisins in celery. And then they say it should be a year of raisin in celery, right? Now you might think that sounds corny, but you know, a play on the Yiddish word carrot, meron, to be more, is just as corny. It's just we're used to it because, you know, that's what they did for 200 years. But Shulchan Aruch, you know, clearly says anything is something positive in your time and place. Yes, David.
Some people have lettuce and say, let us have a good and sweet year.
Yep. Right. And again, that's what all these simonim are. All these simonim are something that can be something positive in your time and place. And you know what? Mashiach's coming today, God willing, but you can imagine in 500 years from now, if we were still here, you'd have people, no one speaks English anymore. They all speak, I don't know, the way the world's going, maybe Chinese or something, but Iranian, God forbid. But anyway, then they'll be having these raisins in celery, not even knowing what the English word even means anyway, you know. But just, this is what my great-grandfather did, right? And that's how they came about. But again, nothing wrong with that. Number 10, so if possible, people should avoid marital relations on the 2 nights of Rosh Hashanah. But anyway, now to number 11. Okay. B'Rosh Hashanah, she'ayma Avinu Malkeinu Chatonu L'Fnecha. Now we have the Avinu Malkeinu prayer. The first one is Avinu Malkeinu Chatonu L'Fnecha. Our Father, our King, we've done the wrong thing in front of you. Now, in the Chabad Machzor, we don't actually say this on Rosh Hashanah. Many Jews do, though. No, so in Chabad, it's only said on fast days and other occasions when we say Avinu Malkeinu, but not on Rosh Hashanah, because we don't want to remind, you know, not that Hashem forgets, but we don't want to be the ones reminding of our faults. But those who do say it, so when it's a fast day and different things, when everyone does say it, when we say the word Chatonu, we give a little tap, like a little punch, put a tap, soft one, on our chest. But on Rosh Hashanah, if you do say it, Ein lahakos be'egroif al chaza, you don't bang, tap with your fist on your chest. K'may b'chol v'yom kippurim, like you would do on a weekday or Yom Kippur. Why? Why don't we do it on Rosh Hashanah? And in Chabad, why don't we say it at all? We don't say confession. We don't admit. We don't do a confession on Rosh Hashanah because it's a yontiv. Yes, it's a very serious day because we're being assessed and judged. But at the end of the day, Rosh Hashanah is a yontiv, and it's a festival. We should be happy, and we don't ever do vidoy on Shabbos or yontiv. Ella, you cover in the page of Avinu Malkeinu Chatonu L'Fnecha. Rather, you should have in mind when you say it. What we mean is that our ancestors, you know, we've worshipped idols. But we've only got one king, and that's you. Therefore, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, asay imanu lam shemecha. Do kindly to us. Treat us kindly for your name's sake. Okay. So that is the Avinu Malkeinu. Then we come to 12. B'shas Hosas Sefer Torah. So after the Avinu Malkeinu, we're going to take out the Sefer Torah, we actually take out 2 Torah scrolls on Rosh Hashanah if you have to, right? In our minion this year, it looks like we're only going to have 1. So we're going to have to do some rolling. But ideally, you take out 2 and each one in the right place. But before we take it out, as well as the usual things we say when we take the Torah out of the ark, Nahagin loyma sholosh esrei midas. We have a custom that we say the 13 attributes of divine mercy. So just on a tangent, just to explain that, when unfortunately we after the Torah was given 40 days later, there was a certain amount of Jews who worshipped the golden calf. And as we explained before, I think we'll just in the lead up to Tisha B'Av, there was really 0.01% of the Jews who worshipped the golden calf. So why was everyone held accountable? So we explained that so many other people should have stopped them. But, unfortunately, it was the attitude, it's not my business to mix in. What they do is between them and Hashem, it's not my place. And there was a degree of apathy. And they didn't stop the people from doing the wrong thing. And therefore, everyone was held responsible to a certain degree. When Moshe sort of, we'll say, negotiated, for lack of a better word, our getting us no longer responsible, take away our responsibility, one of the things that he said were these 13 attributes of divine mercy, which something that he learnt when he was on Mount Sinai, the 40 days, 40 nights, and it shows the channels, divine channels of how forgiveness comes into the world. So again, just to understand this a little bit more clearly, the way that Hashem set up all the universes, spiritual and physical, is that there's a system. It's called Seder Shtalshelus, right? There's a whole system of spiritual universes, and pretty much everything starts at one end, and this physical world, physical universe, is the bottom end, and it goes through. Now, certain things begin to see to realize the potential at different levels. So for an example, although all creative energy starts at the highest level, but you can't recognize what it's coming to. At a certain point, a physical blade of grass, there's a certain point in the spiritual worlds, where you can recognize, this is the origin of the blade of grass, or this is the origin of my soul. So we say that the soul or the blade of grass come from that point. Now, everything had to come from the beginning, but at that point it was just unrealized potential. There was no connection to what it actually is in the physical world. And at some point in this system, it becomes recognizable. That's the point. And at that point in the system, it has the greatest impact. It's a little bit like I'll give a good Arizona example. When you shoot a gun, right? More guns than people in Arizona, that's 3 times more. But when you shoot a gun, you can tell which gun the bullet came through because it goes through the barrel, even though you had 50,000 other guns come out of the same factory, but everyone's slightly different. And it has a certain mark, scratch as it goes through quickly, it's a high speed. And you can.
It's called, Rabbi, it's called a fingerprint.
Okay, yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
So similarly, as we go through, as all the divine energy goes through the spiritual worlds to come to this world, but there's a certain point that's where you can start to tell what it is. And at that point, we, so to speak, get the fingerprint, and you can recognize that this comes from this spiritual level. So there's a method to bring things down. So one of our davening, for example, our prayers in general, bring this energy into the world. So we connect to the higher sources and we draw it down. And it's sometimes this world, again, just to use a parable, it's obviously not the same thing, but it's like plumbing. It's like all these channels where the energy comes through, and sometimes for some reason the plumbing can get blocked, and we need to unblock the plumbing. And for different types of issues, there's different things that can help draw down the spiritual energy into this world. But one of the things are these 13 attributes of divine mercy. What does that mean? It's the combination of the 13 together draws down the spiritual energy of, I'm going to say forgiveness for lack of a better word. What it really means is helping to erase our mistake and repairing our relationship with Hashem as if the mistake did not happen, perhaps even stronger than before it happened. And we say quite a few times of Rosh Kippur, and one of the times is before we take out the Torah, we say it. Okay. 13. Then we're going to get into the shofar. So the shofar makes several sounds. So I don't want to confuse everyone with the names if you're not familiar, but we'll mention it. But the main thing is the length of the sounds. So we have a tekiah, shvarim, and turah. They're the three main sounds. There's the tekiah gadola, which means the very large tekiah. We'll leave that aside. The main three are the tekiah. It's one long blast. The shvarim is 3 blasts, and the turah at minimum 9 blasts. Now the point is that the turah, which is short, it's a different sounds of crying, essentially. So the tekiah is when someone calls out, they call out one long cry. And the shvarim, which is the same length, that's divided into 3, it's like regular crying. When a person cries, they sob, and then the turah, these little short ones, so when a person's, that sort of cry, it's so the 9 teruos equal the 3 shvarim, which equals the 1 tekiah. And this is important because if the tekiah, the long one, is not equal length to these other ones, then it's not long enough. And that's the issue we're going to have. And we have one set of blows where we put the shvarim and turah together. We do one after the other, in which case we have a length of 2 normal tekiahs. So when we blow tekiah, then we have to do an extra long tekiah, because it has to be that each system we have, it's each series of blasts starts with the tekiah, then we have the middle sound, and then it ends with the tekiah. So whatever the middle sound is, the tekiah on either side has to be equal length. So when we have the combined middle sound, then we have to do a double length tekiah. So we have these blasts and various things. There's many famous stories. Essentially the same idea that someone was going to be the one who blows the shofar in shul, and he prepared all different mystical intentions to have and various things, and either he lost the paper or he forgot it, because again, as I said, there's different stories, different similar stories. And in the end, all they could think of, afterwards, whoever it was, the Rebbe asked them, what were you thinking? And he says, he lost it. All he could think was, Hashem, please help us, So that was, or something along those lines. So, although it's good to have all kinds of intentions, but the main thing they have to have in mind is, first of all, they're blowing for everyone, and we're crying out to Hashem. We're crying out to Hashem. There's a parable of a prince. He was banished from his country. He wasn't a good boy, And eventually he makes his way back after spending a long time in this place where he was banished. And it takes many years to travel back. And by the time he gets back, he looks different. He's worn by the elements. His royal clothes of, he's wearing peasant clothes now. And by the time he gets back, he's even forgotten the language of his country. And he comes to the palace and he wants to go in to see the king. And the guards don't let him in. He tries to explain he's the prince, but they don't understand what he's babbling about. He's speaking a different language. He certainly doesn't look like a prince. And they throw him out. So he cries out, ah! You can't even say father language anymore. But he cries out, the father hears his voice, recognizes his voice, and runs out and brings him in. And this is really like this simple blast of the shofar. It's not a fancy tune. It's not, we're not playing music. It's a pure blast from the depths of our soul. So on a very basic level, we should think about that. And also, the one who's blowing has to think about blowing correctly. That's amazing. Anyway, it's a bit of a long paragraph and already hit 1 o'clock. So we shall continue tomorrow, God willing.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Any
Thank you,
questions before we
Rabbi.
finish up?
Thank you, Rabbi.
Start.
Present, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rabbi,